Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today I'm looking at a bargain Hornby loco, and it's a Hornby loco that I've actually never tried before. I've not reviewed an electric locomotive for absolutely ages. I mean, in model form, obviously, they're all electric, but in terms of prototypes, yeah, it's been a long time since I've reviewed an electric. So today I am doing, and I'm looking at this. This is Hornby's Class 87. And this model was released back in 2018, which is strange because I don't remember a big fanfare about this thing being released, and I've certainly never tried one before. So I'm wondering, or suspecting, what might have happened is that maybe Hornby took their existing Class 86 locomotive, which was introduced a decade or more before in the early 2000s, and modified it to create this Class 87. Because in real life, at least visually on the outside, the Class 86 and the 87 were almost identical. All Hornby would have had to have done was make a bit of a modification to the windows, I believe, and hey presto, it's a Class 87. Obviously, on the inside, the 87 was quite a bit different from the 86, but outwardly, not so much. So I wonder if that's what Hornby did. Unfortunately, I don't have a Class 86 either, so I can't check. And yes, I'm not doing very well on the Hornby electrics, am I? But I do have this one, so I'm eager to see what this is like. So the latest version of the Hornby 87 is insanely expensive, not a surprise. The full RRP is £239.99. This one is the latest version though. I believe it's received some upgrades, such as a new 21-pin DCC socket, as opposed to the 8-pin socket that's in this one. But otherwise it's the same base model as far as I can tell. Anyway, the prices at the retailers have been slashed recently. For example, you can get the latest version for £129.50. That's a massive discount, of course. Although I paid even less for this one. This thing cost me £99, and that's not used or second-hand, that's brand new. Goodness knows how it was that inexpensive, and I don't remember where I got it from. I wrote down that it was £99. I forget where it was from, but if you want to get the latest round of Class 87 bargains, or if you just want to browse them, I do have an affiliate link in the description for you. But for now, let's take a look at this loco. Let's see what it's like. Let's see if it's any good. Let's see if it's a £100 locomotive or a £240 locomotive. Which is a massive difference, isn't it? I mean, your expectations for a £99 loco are going to be wildly different from your expectations of a £240 model. So which is this? Is it somewhere in between? Let's find out. Alright, the Hornby 87, and I've got to say right off the bat, good heavy feeling box here, so hopefully this will be quite a beast of a loco, because the original 87s back in the 70s, they were pretty beastly as well, certainly more so than the 86s that went before them. Anyway, let me show you the end of the box. So the specific version I've got is R3739. It's a BR Class 87. It is Royal Scot or Stevenson. Do we get two sets of nameplates for this? I don't know, we'll see. And it's number 87001. And for a bit more info on the real thing, let me flip the box over. Here we've got the route availability, which is 6 for the Class 87, quite versatile. And then over in the middle of the box, we've got a brief history of the class, so feel free to pause and read that if you're interested. I will give you some info in just a second though. And then on the end, my favourite part, the drawings, and these are dated 2016. So yeah, model probably designed around that sort of time, released in 2018 as far as I can tell. Right, so with that then, let's open this up for the first time and take our first look. Yeah, I do quite like the look of this electric, actually. It's got quite a sort of iconic shape and profile to it, hasn't it? So, yeah, let's open up. Oh, there is the actual model. Gosh, and already this looks pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot of detail on the roof, which is good to see. I can see interior detail behind the glazing there. That's not bad really for a model from 2018 or 16 or somewhere around there. I like the look of this. Right, let's take this out, see if I can dig out some instructions. All right, important. It very rarely is. Right, here we go. Class 87 Bobo electric locomotive. Right, generic info on the front. Let's see if we can get a sense of the mechanism. Right, so lubrication, just showing the axles there. Body removal, looks as though there are no screws, it's just a clipped on body, fair enough. Accessories, so you've got NEM couplings you can fit, various buffer beam detailing. Pantographs, okay, I probably will need to read this. To raise the pantograph, hold both sides of the collector head and ease upwards. Alright, that's fine. Generally, Hornby's pantographs are not very good. They're normally quite cheap looking, bit flimsy. Interested to see what this one's like. Right, night and day switch, this is interesting. On the underside of the loco is a switch. This toggles the lights between night and day modes. Pretty good that, so you don't have to disassemble the thing to access that. DCC ready and sound. You can see this loco has a 8-pin DCC socket. The latest versions of this model have a 21-pin though. And then on the back, nothing of much interest. Right. Well, the sort of clamshell packaging still feeling pretty heavy, so looking forward to finding out what this weighs. Right, we've got a little sign here. Ooh, and this is a feature I like. Blimey, £99. And we've got etched nameplates. Noticeably though, only one of each. So is it a Stevenson from one side and Royal Scot from the other? I guess it must be. And then attached nameplates using blue tack, not suitable for children. Yes, if you give these to a child, they'll probably eat them. Right, accessories 2. Yeah, pretty much what the instructions showed. So a pair of NEM tension locks and then various wires and maybe some pipe work for the buffer beams, which you can fit if you want to, provided they don't foul the couplings, of course. That may be why they're not fitted from the factory. Anyway, let's have a look. And when I open this, we're going to get a good look, hopefully, at the roof furniture, which seems to be substantial. And it is. Let me take this bit of plastic off the pantograph. Ooh. It's not plastic, it's tape. Right, do we really want tape on the side of a painted loco body? Deary me. Okay, well, we'll see whether that's left a mark or not in a minute. And there's some bits of foam either side. Better safe than sorry, I suppose. How do we get this out? Oh, I might... bear with me, I think I might have to raise the pantograph to get that out. Yeah. And already it's not a very good pantograph, it's not sprung up. There we go. Well, there's no point doing all this now because you can't really see it, so I'll fix this back down. It's a cheap, plasticky, flimsy pantograph though, as predicted. I will give you that spoiler right now. Anyway, lifting. Oh yes. Well done, Hornby. A heavy, heavy loco. Poor quality pantograph, but a good quality feeling model. And wow, look at this thing. The bogies are particularly impressive. Look at all the details picked out. Or are they separately fitted? We'll have a look in a little while. But yeah, good quality feeling loco this. Lots and lots of detail to it. And also a very, very good price where I'm concerned. Not bad for 99 quid, is it? Anyway, we'll take a much closer look at this in just a second, and I will give you the verdict in terms of quality and detail. But first of all, here's a bit of background on this class in real life. The British Rail Class 87 was introduced in 1973 for passenger work along the West Coast Main Line. The Class 87, as I've been saying, was based on the existing Class 86, yet it was required to deliver even better performance to meet the ever-increasing demands of the railways. The 87 would have massively more power at its disposal than the 86, 5,000 horsepower as opposed to 3,600 horsepower of the 86. They were also 10 miles per hour faster too, with a top speed of 110. Despite the improvements, only 36 87s were built in total, far fewer than the 100 Class 86s that were built. Following the privatisation of British Rail in 1994, all Class 87s became part of the Virgin Trains fleet, and Virgin then decided that the now ageing Class 87 had to go, and all members of the class were withdrawn in the early 2000s. But the story did not end there. 12 of them were scrapped, and the story did end there for those, but 3 of them have been preserved, which is good, and 21 of the class, the majority, was exported to Bulgaria, where they continue to be used to this day, apparently. So there it is, up close and personal for you, Hornby's Class 87. Now, I approached this one with a bit of trepidation. I thought this has been reduced to £100, which is sort of lower than the current RRP. What is wrong with this thing? What is so bad about this that has caused it to be discounted by that much? And honestly, the answer is nothing. This is a pretty damn good looking model. The quality is pretty good on the whole. The detail is out of this world, and certainly for £99 or even £130, which is the current discounted rate at the retailers, this is worth every penny of that, I would say. At least as far as I can tell. I've not seen this run yet. Anyway, the weight is impressive. So it comes in at 478 grams, which is a little bit less than Bachmann's Class 90. I suppose you'd expect that though. But it is quite a bit more than Accurascale's Class 31, and it's even more than Hornby's new 9F in 00. So yeah, a lot of weight to this thing, which is really, really good. The finish of the paintwork, I think, is my least favourite aspect of the model. It looks a little bit flat and plasticky. I think more of a satin, slightly glossy finish would have made this look a lot more premium, because as it is, it does just look like sort of flat plastic. But that's the only issue I would have with this visually. Luckily, the sticky tape, which was applied to the body, hasn't left any marks, and I feel like that's pretty fortunate. I mean, seriously, that's madness, isn't it? I've never seen sticky tape applied to bodywork before. But yeah, this is unscathed from that. The decoration itself is outstanding. We've got so much going on here. So we've got the Stevenson nameplate on this side and a little sort of portrait of Stevenson printed underneath. Obviously, we have a separate version of the Stevenson's nameplate if we want to fit that. Then on the other side, we've got a totally different nameplate. This is the Royal Scot one. So yeah, I joked about this earlier, but it really is Royal Scot on one side and Stevenson on the other side. That's unusual to me. I don't think I've ever seen that before, at least not in model form. But yeah, a very complex paint job. We've got the orange lining across the top of the body, which has been done excellently. We've got the British Rail double arrows. They look fine. Nice printing on the side of the cab as well with the running number. The yellow ends are incredibly precisely masked and painted. Look how sharp that join is. Looks brilliant. And then of course, we've got all of the little details that have been picked out. We've got the tiny door handles, which are not separately fitted, but they are very, very precisely painted. We've got the tiny little electrical warning signs here. All sorts of underframe detail picked out. The wiring on the bogies, I believe, at least for the most part, is just a part of the moulding. But as you can see, all of it has been painted and picked out so that it looks absolutely outstanding. They've really used paint here to their advantage. It is just the finish for me that's not that great. The rest of the model looks wonderful. Okay, let's talk about detail then, because there is a lot to see here. So first of all, the underframe is marvellous. It looks pretty good on this side, as you can see, great definition in the moulding, but it's over on the other side where the real fun begins. Look at all of this. We've got what looks like a sort of etched mesh around this part, a separate part that. So much detail down here, it looks great, and of course the bogies look very complex and detailed as well, which is good. Over on the ends of the model, you can see we've got loads of detail here. These wipers on the windows, those are separately fitted parts and they're incredibly fine. We've got separately fitted handrails here, which are good and sturdy as well. These wires on the front, these connectors, they're separate parts. We've got lighting, which I assume will work. No reason to assume not. And in fact, the instructions have mentioned lighting. So yeah, it's going to have working lighting. The buffers are made of metal, not plastic, and they are even sprung. Look at that. And while the buffer beams may look a little bit bare out of the box, obviously if you want to, you can add the details provided and make those look a bit more realistic as well. So yeah, loads of detail on the ends. The sides of the model look great as well. The grills here are just a part of the moulding. They're not separate or etched or anything like that. That's a pity, but the quality of the moulding is certainly good. The handrails either side of the doors, these are separately fitted and wire as well. Good quality, nice and straightly fitted. And then of course we've even got glazed windows along the body, behind which there is even interior detail. Now that is awesome. In terms of interior, the cab interior is a bit of a mixed bag. There is a lot of detail inside here actually. Lots of controls, the seats look good, etc, etc. The floor level seems to be about right, and it looks as though we've even got working cab lighting. But there's nothing painted inside here. I think that's a pity. It's totally fine for £99, but I would hope that the latest £240 87 does have a bit of paintwork in the cab, because you switch those cab lights on and illuminate the featureless grey landscape that is the cab detail here. Yeah, that's a little bit disappointing and not quite in keeping with the level of detail of the rest of the model. And we've not actually looked at the most detailed area of this thing yet, and that is the roof. Goodness, yeah, look at all of this. Great moulded detail. We've got so many separately fitted parts. We've got the wiring attached to these insulators, and that goes over to the pantograph. We've got these little things. What on earth are these? Maybe they're aerials or something. I suppose that would be my guess. But yeah, very fine separate parts. All of these little bars, these are separately fitted wire parts. We've got these what look like little contactors, those are separately fitted. All of this detail, or the vast majority of it, is separately moulded and applied. Absolutely astonishing. All right, let's talk about the pantograph then. Yeah, this thing's not great. It's plastic, obviously you're not going to be able to use it against your catenaries, and it doesn't even spring properly, so it's not going to maintain contact with your catenaries anyway. So yeah, that's a dead loss really, really poor quality, which is a shame because the rest of the model is very, very good. But yeah, flimsy thing. Oh, and in fact, yeah, there we go, it's come off in my hand. Goodness sake. And I think Hornby probably know this, because why else would they have packed it down with tape and that piece of foam and such? I mean, I've never seen that before. So they must be aware that the pantograph here is a bit shoddy, and I'm struggling to get this to go back on. Have I done it? No, hang on. Yeah, the clip has broken actually on there. Yeah, look at that, that's opened out. So 2 openings of the pantograph, one to remove the packaging, another to demonstrate it, and it's knackered already. So well done, Hornby. That's certainly going to count against them on the score. Anyway, let me reattach this. So yeah, overall it's a lovely model. The build quality is high. Most parts are good quality and straightly fitted with no visible glue. The weight is good, the decoration's brilliant. It's just the quality of the finish I think could have been better, and certainly that pantograph needed to have been quite a lot better. Still though, for what I paid, or for £130, this is just the job, and a very impressive model overall. That is visually though, of course. How does this run? What is the mechanism like? These are the things we need to find out next. So let's get this down onto the track. So there she is, down onto the track, looking excellent and so detailed. The Hornby Class 87, and I've already filmed the initial test of this. I won't spoil that for you right now. I'll show you that in a minute. And after that, I took this thing apart to see what it was like on the inside as well as the outside. So let's get into that now. In terms of pickups, it's a very simple pickup solution. We've got a wiper pickup touching each wheel nice and subtly, and that's all that's involved there. We've got the switch as mentioned in the instructions. This is allowing you to switch from night lighting to day lighting and vice versa. Actually, if you switch it to night running, you actually get the cab lights working on analog, which I didn't realise, so you'll see that later on. The bogie base keepers are actually held on with screws, as you can see, not just clips. So to access the axles, you've got to remove that screw and then unclip the bogie, which is great. That means if the clips should fail, you can still keep the loco together, which is great. Removing the base reveals we've got proper bearings on the driving axles. That's really good to see. And all of these axles are driven, as you can see, with these gears. So it's all-wheel pickup, all-wheel drive. Now the body is just held on with clips, unfortunately, not screws, but it is a very snug fit, which means the glue spreaders are needed. I'm not sure how easy it would be to remove without those, but with the spreaders, this was a pretty easy job. Made even easier by the fact that the cab lights are connected using these sprung contacts, so we've got no wires bridging between the chassis and the body. That's really good, nice bit of thoughtful design there. And we've got lighting boards on the chassis as well for the head and tail lights. Really nifty design this. All of the LEDs in one place, as you can see. Anyway, here is the chassis, which is a heavy die-cast chassis, very weighty indeed this. And you can also see we've got some decorated interior sections here, which you can see through the side windows. Here we've got the 8-pin DCC socket, so this is DCC ready. Like I mentioned earlier though, the latest release of this model has a 21-pin socket here instead of the 8-pin, I believe. Now the speaker and the motor go beneath this circuit board, so I decided to show that to you. So to remove the board, you have to remove these 2 screws first. And then under here, we've got this massive motor, very large, but the flywheels are even larger. We've got 2 very, very large flywheels fitted to either end, and these are very weighty indeed. As you can see, while there is space for a speaker, there is no speaker pre-fitted, which is a pity, you know, especially given the higher prices. Perhaps though the latest release of this does have the pre-fitted speaker. I don't have one of those, so I can't check. For the one I'm reviewing though, no speaker, which is a pity, but it's fair enough. Then the gauging comes in at 14.3mm back to back quite reliably, which is just a smidge below the standard, and models gauge like this tend to run the best, I find, so that's good as well. So a really, really good mechanism. I thought surely, given how heavily discounted this was and how good the model looked, surely it would be the mechanism that would let this down, but it certainly didn't. This is a really good quality mechanism for a really good quality loco on the whole. So, did the performance match the mechanism? Well, let me show you. Moment of truth then. I have been pretty impressed by this thing so far, but now it's really time for it to prove itself. Now, it's not been run yet, so it's okay if it's not perfect straight out of the box. I will, of course, run this in and let it warm up. But we need to find out whether this works at all, so forwards direction, straight out of the box, here we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the performance test complete. The lights flickered on, the loco twitched forwards, and then it was dead. Anyway, there we go. Oh man, please don't say this is why this was £99. No, it's coming to life, it's coming to life. I should say it's very, very cold at the moment. I do have heating up here, but it's not as warm as usual, so I am going to allow this loco ample time to warm up, and actually, yeah, I suspect maybe the pickups had just got a bit of corrosion on them, because now that's improved a lot, although it does keep stopping. That's annoying. But yeah, hopefully running in will improve this, and I have to say, it's when it's not cutting out constantly, it is good and smooth. So the mechanism's good. It's just at the moment we seem to be having a bit of a pickup issue with it. So it might just be running in fixes it. It might be that I've got to start testing which wheels are picking up, which ones aren't, and seeing if I can tweak anything. But yeah, it's definitely getting better, isn't it? Right, let's do a few preliminary tests then, if the pickups will allow. First of all, any torque to this thing? Let's see, 50%. Yeah, it's turning its wheels pretty well, and that's impressive, I would say, for a loco that weighs as much as this does. So that's good. Let's back up and see what the crawl's like. Again, I'll test all this after running in, but let's just see what it's like for now. Here we go. Okay, so not brilliant. That's the sort of slowest I can get it to go, a bit more. Yeah, it's coggy and it's not happy until it reaches about this speed. So that's what it's got to beat. Hopefully it will after it's warmed up. Let's just try it in reverse, where it's much the same. It's not cutting out now though, so hopefully that's something that's going to get better. Yeah, that's not bad. It's not too bad. I mean, it's not brilliant. I don't know how much of that is to do with the pickups. Again, we'll try all this later on. And then finally, lighting. We've got pretty cool LED headlights, really. Yeah, there wouldn't have been LEDs sort of back in these days, would they? So a warm white LED would have been a bit warmer, a bit more like a bulb. Tail lights are okay though. Nice red tail lights there. yeah, they look absolutely fine. And the cab lights don't appear to be on. Hopefully you can see that as it goes past. Yeah, cab lights not on, so I assume those are just controllable via DCC. Right, let's run this in. Let me just show you what 50% is like first. That's half power, so yeah, that's pretty good. Full power. All right, yeah, that looks about 110, doesn't it? 110 miles an hour. So yeah, sensible range of speeds, great flywheel effect as well. See how gently that slowed down? So we've definitely got flywheels. Yeah, I think this is shaping up pretty well. Anyway, let's run this in, see how it gets on around the track. Here goes. All right, so it is beautifully smooth, I must say, and quiet. So that's good. Yeah, that is shaping up really nicely. So at the moment, I would say the low speed performance I've seen better. The high speed performance though, which is arguably more important for a loco like this, is spot on. Really, really good. It seems to be consistent enough. I've not seen it cut out at this speed, at least not since I first tried it anyway. And it's not slowing down on the curves, it's not derailing or anything like that. It's maintaining a constant speed. Yeah, this is a beautiful runner, folks. This is really lovely. So, can it improve itself with a good run? Well, we'll find out. So I'll let this go for 30 minutes in either direction. Then we'll come back and I'll do some more testing. Right, see you in a second. All right, there we go, folks. Running in complete. So, yeah, that went really well. A few things to talk about. I had a couple of stoppages early on during the running in process. And of course, those happened right behind the bookcase where it was really difficult to get to the damn thing. Fortunately though, after that couple of mishaps, no more problems. This has not cut out since, and it seems to be able to go over the points and such, even at lower speeds, without cutting out. So yeah, the pickups seem to have sorted themselves out by themselves, which is good. What else? No issues at all with the sort of smoothness and the speed. It maintains a perfectly constant speed all the way around the layout without slowing down on the curves or anything like that. So that aspect of it is great. Right, let's see if the speed has changed at all now that it's warmed up. Let's go by at half power. Ready? 50. No, I would say that's about the same as before, so great range of speeds. Obviously, this was an express passenger locomotive, I suppose, so the fact that it can do these high speeds is really important. Right, what I've also done is left it on night mode, and the reason is that on analog, then the cab lights actually do work. I don't know if you'll be able to see them, because they are extremely dim. I don't think you can actually, so yeah, you need it dark on your layout if you're going to see that, but it is nice that there's an easy way to make those work on analog. I think that's pretty good. Right, the pulling power then for this thing is absolutely immense. The tractive effort comes in at 0.85 newtons, which is actually much more than the Bachmann Class 90, despite that loco being heavier. So yeah, it's a powerful loco this, and of course because it's got such power in the mechanism as well, it's able to use all of that weight to its advantage and become a very powerful hauler. So yeah, that's great. The other thing that I've done is fitted the coupling, just one of them. They were not pre-fitted, but those are kinematic, as you can see, and they seem to work very nicely, although we'll test that theory in just a second, because I've set up some of my Hornby Mark IIIs in a sort of blue Pullman livery. Not strictly correct, but the right sort of era, I suppose. Anyway, let's just try the crawl again, because that was the one area that I was hoping to see improved. So let's back up and send it in forwards, and let's see. Hopefully this will be better now. Oh, better already, but then it stopped. So, okay. So I would say that's slower, but it's not dreadfully smooth. It does keep stopping, which is a shame. Now, the higher speeds are definitely the more important ones, so that's fair enough. Maybe this isn't too much of a big issue. But then again, I have to think about the locos that I've reviewed that were great at the high speeds and at the crawls. And unfortunately, I don't think this is quite one of those, although it's not a million miles away. Let's see if we can get it in this direction to crawl. A bit more. Ooh, yeah. It just struggles to maintain it though, doesn't it? It starts very slowly and smoothly, and then it stops, and then you have to give it a bit more. That's pretty good though. It's just a shame it keeps stopping. So I suspect the issue is not the motor. I suspect it's those two massive flywheels. There must be 20 grams of flywheel at least there. And of course they're coupled directly to the motor, so the motor is having to spin those at pretty high speed even at a crawl. And I think that is just taking a lot of energy out of that motor. So I don't know, the flywheels make it a beautifully smooth runner, but I think they have affected the slow speeds. Having said that, at a sort of walking pace, it is perfectly smooth. So yeah, the performance is great, but I have seen slightly better. I think that's what I'll say. Right, anyway, let's test the coupling then. I've only got one fitted, like I said. So let's back up, check that that's at the right height. Okay. Yeah, this is not going to be that easy to do precisely because it's kind of choppy at this speed. So let's go a bit quicker and then slow down into it. Yeah, all right. Well, not the easiest thing to do in the world, at least not smoothly, but it is done, and I didn't jolt the coaches, so that's something. Did we get it? I heard it click, so I think so. Yeah, we got it. Right, with that, let's go then. It's only got 5 coaches, so according to my measurements, it should do that incredibly easily. And she certainly doesn't seem to be struggling with those, making mincemeat out of those. Anyway, we'll catch up with the 87 in just a second. On the inside line, I've got the Bachmann Class 90, which kind of superseded the 87s in real life. Slightly newer, slightly more powerful. But I have to say, there's not a lot in it in model form between the level of detail between the two. And the 87, the Hornby model, is actually more powerful. It's not heavier, but it is more powerful because the torque of this Bachmann model, at least mine, isn't great. But yeah, it's a decent enough runner. And now I just need the 86 to complete the set. But there we go, with some mega boxes. Then on the inside line, we've got another, I turned the wrong knob. Oh, honestly, I'm always grabbing the wrong knob. Here we go, I got the next class up, the Acura Scale Class 92, which is still an electric, but a much larger one. Alright, and here comes the 87 again, just in time for us to observe it around the track. Let's see if it slows down on those curves. Alright, something tells me this is going to do this with ease. And it has. No slowing down whatsoever. Now, it seems like it shouldn't be too much to ask for, but there are so many models that I've reviewed that kind of struggle around the curves, and they might have certain issues with couplings or torque or derailing or something, anything really. This one is notable in that it's got no issues whatsoever, except for that slight issue with the pantograph, but everything else is just spot on, which means there's nothing to distract you from the way the loco just runs, which means you can just enjoy it. You know, how many locos have you not had to do anything to? You can just put them on the track and you can enjoy them. Well, there's a few out there. This is certainly among them. And as such, it's just a really enjoyable loco to run. It looks beautiful, it's got great lighting, great detail, and at the high speeds, brilliant performance as well. So I think that's what I would say. Overall, a very enjoyable model. And for £99, yeah, this was crazy. You can't get it for 99 at the moment. The current price is 130 discounted, but even so, how many locos of this caliber can you pick up for £130? Not too many. So yeah, anything up to 100 and, let's say anything up to the price of an Acura scale, so anything up to 169 would be okay, I think, for this. So if you can find it for less than 170, yeah, I could certainly recommend this one. And now then, let's have some ratings for Hornby's Class 87, which was so heavily reduced, and I have to say, what a bargain this was at the price I paid. So, level of detail is actually quite outstanding. I've given it 4.5 stars. So much detail on this, so many features, full lighting, sprung buffers, separate nameplates provided as well. Very complex paint job, loads of separate detail. We've got detail on the interior, a very detailed top of the model with all of that roof furniture. Yeah, the level of detail is amazing. The only reason it doesn't get 5 is because the cab interior isn't that great. You know, some crew figures, a bit of painted detail inside there. I think that would have made the cab kind of next level, but overall that's a relatively small complaint because really this is a top detailed model. Performance, similarly, I've given 4-star. Generally, it is a really decent performer now. Now that it's running, the pickups seem to be a lot better and they are quite easy to access and clean and adjust, so if they do become a problem, that won't be a huge issue. It's perfectly consistent, great speed, loads of torque, no reliability issues around curves or anything like that. The only reason it doesn't get 5-star is because it's not that great at crawling. It's a little bit coggy, kind of lurches to life at a relatively high speed, not that realistic. So 4-star, better crawl would have been a higher score. The pulling power though, thanks to its massive weight of 478 grams, comes in with a tractive effort of 0.85 newtons, which is massive. That is more than the Bachmann Class 90, even though the Bachmann Class 90 is heavier, so it's got better torque. It's also more than a Dapol Class 52 Western, which is obviously a much larger diesel locomotive. So yeah, amazing pulling power and the torque to back it up as well. So that brings us on to mechanism, which I'm not going to fault. I'm going to give it 5-star. So we've got all-wheel pickup, all-wheel drive, proper bearings on the driving axles, not just clips holding the bogies together, you've got screws as well. So if the clips should fail, the loco isn't dead, you can just rely on the screws. That's good. We've got a quality 5-pole motor in this with 2 massive flywheels. It could be the flywheels really that are to blame for the slightly poor crawl, but they do mean that it's a super smooth runner at other speeds. Fairly easy to DCC fit, no pre-fitted speaker unfortunately. I don't normally knock the score down for that, but yeah, it's worth mentioning, no speaker in this one. Otherwise though, an absolutely brilliant mechanism that works very well too. Quality then, I've knocked down a little bit down to 3.5-star. Now overall the quality is really good. There's a lot of complexity on this model and yet everything's been fitted nicely. There's no scuffs in the paintwork, no messily applied detail parts or anything like that. It's just the finish isn't that great. It looks a bit plasticky. We've seen newer models, I think, which have a much better and more premium looking finish than this does. So that's one reason. The other quality issue is the pantograph, which is very, very poor. I mean, we've seen Hornby do better pantographs than this. The Class 71 has a metal one, which is better quality, but it's quite a rare thing. A lot of Hornby's pantographs are plasticky like this, and it's just not great. There's no proper springing to it, so I don't even know how it would even follow like a catenary line or whatever. Came off in my hand, weak clips to hold it on. Yeah, not a good pantograph. It kind of spoils it a little bit, so I've knocked it down accordingly for that. Value for money then, the latest RRP for one of these is £239.99. That is absolutely insane, but of course the model I reviewed cost me just £99, where it was heavily discounted, which is much, much better. At the moment you can pick up the Hornby 87 for £129.50. I have to say at that price as well, this is worth every penny. So I've kind of averaged it out, I've given it 3.5-star. There is an opportunity here to overpay for the Hornby Class 87. I would recommend not doing that. Look for it in the sale, pick it up at lower prices. Don't be paying £200+ for this because as good as it is, I don't think it's worth quite that. Not when we've got Accurascale locos and even electrics for less than £200, and they are really the gold standard. But anyway, that's an overall score of 8.29 out of 10, which is very, very good, and that's a grade of B. I think if it wasn't for the finish and the pantograph and perhaps the price, then this would almost certainly have gotten a grade of A, but a B is pretty good. And into the logbook it goes, where it is top above Hornby's A1. Yeah, much, much better than I was expecting, and miles better than you'd expect, I think, for £99. Alright then folks, well that will just about wrap up this review of Hornby's Class 87. Please do comment down below what you thought about this. Do you have one of these? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Yeah, please do share that with me. Also, if you have a Class 86 by Hornby, one of the sort of modern-ish ones, does it look as though it is substantially the same model as this? Does it look as though the 87 has been based on it? Or is it a sort of different design? Are they separate models entirely? Yeah, if you know the answer to that, please do share that with me, because if they are different, and possibly even if they're not, it might be worth trying to get an 86 or at least look out for one so that I can see what those are like. But anyway, enough about that. This was the 87, much more impressive than I expected. And I think that's what a sensible price can do, isn't it? Because if I'd paid 240 for this, I would say, well, it's a good job, it's good, and really in areas it's not good enough. But I didn't pay that, I paid 100. And for that, I am over the moon with this. So yeah, a sensible price can go a long way towards customer satisfaction, can't it? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, cheers folks, you take care.